All right, so let's do a little walkthrough for the SketchUp assignment of creating your room. First thing is simply click Create New once you're signed on to the app.sketchup.com, which is, you can just type it in directly. Make sure you sign in with your school account. Um, Typically, what I like to do is I like to first draw my floor plan flat. So if you've taken measurements of your room, you can use something like the line tool. I typically will start at the origin. I also like to use the provided axes, the green axis going off to the vanishing point, red axis coming across. The blue axis is vertical only, up and down only. If you press and hold your scrolling wheel and move your mouse, it will orbit. If you zoom in and zoom out with your wheel, it should be zoom in and zoom out on your screen. All right, on the bottom right hand corner, you can see the length is automatically calculated as you kind of move things around. You could draw a line. So I've clicked the origin. I've clicked right here. Let's just say that whatever the size is not what I want. I can simply type in the number. So let's say I want that line to be 20 feet. So 20 and an apostrophe and hit enter. And whatever line it is currently drawing, it will type to that spot. Control Z is step back. So let's maybe do that a little clearer. So if I click in the origin, if I move my cursor down, you can see on the bottom right hand side, the length changes as I go. I can move it to 20 feet and click it, or I can just type in 20 feet and hit enter and it will automatically draw it. Again, I like using the axes. So let's say my room is 15 feet by 20 feet. As I'm just kind of moving my line out, I can type in 15 apostrophe, hit enter, and it'll automatically draw a 15-foot line for me. All right, so here's where things can get confusing for some people. This is a three-dimensional project and a three-dimensional program. So sometimes when you're using your lines, if you're not quite sure where they are, you might have a hard time getting it. So again, the blue axis is only up and down. So it can be confusing if you're trying to draw a 20-foot line square. I like to move it along the axis until I get the green line. And you can see on the bottom right hand corner, it says 20 feet. So I'm going to click that. And then I'm going to complete the rectangle by clicking the origin point again. Anytime SketchUp completes a polygon, it automatically fills the space. So if you hit spacebar, that's the direct selection tool. You can see this is now a filled in rectangle. All right, I'm going to step back. Again, it's Control Z, and I'm going to draw this with a rectangle tool, which is R on your keyboard. It's also on the right-hand side right here. And you can see as I click and move away from the origin, on the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the dimensions are changing as I go. Once again, I can type in 20 feet. In this case, I will separate the length and width with a comma, 15 apostrophe, hit enter, and I now have a 20-foot by 15-foot floor. Again, your dimensions might be different. You might have weird dimensions where you've got, kind of a line going this way, and then comes down and comes past, and then you've got like a line coming over. All those things are possible. You just have to do what's best for your particular space. So in the case of this example, I'm just giving you a basic understanding of what we're doing. Step forward is Control Y. All right, I've got my floor plan. I need thick walls. So the easiest way to do it is to use the offset tool, which is here on the left. It's F on your keyboard. You can see when I have the offset tool and I've moved my cursor to the object itself, you can see this little line along the edge kind of shadows my cursor. If I click one time and move in, you can see the dimensions are going in. If I move out, the dimensions go out. This will be for any geometry that you make. So we happen to have just a simple rectangle, so it's not too complex. But if you measured everything, you don't necessarily want to go in from those measurements. So I'm going to type in 6 quotation marks, which means inches, and hit enter. And I now have a 6-inch wall surrounding the space of my floor plan. Okay, so this 6-inch space, if I click it with the push-pull tool, which is P on the keyboard, it's also on the left-hand side underneath, you can see that I can now pull that thick wall up. Typical floor on the interior in the United States is 8 feet, so I can just type in 8 apostrophe, hit enter, and I now have an 8-foot tall, 6-inch thick wall. All right, so I have my volume. Again, just for orbiting, I'm just pressing in my mouse wheel and moving my mouse over. You can zoom. If you don't have a separate mouse, the O key is orbit. You can also use the H key, which is hand, which is kind of pull from one side to the other. I really don't like using SketchUp without a separate mouse with a wheel. A touchpad, for example, can be very hard to use in SketchUp because it gets a little bit clicky and draggy. So something to think about. I have separate ones here in my classroom if you need it. All right, so we have our 3D volume. We're going to put in a door. It's going to be a simple door. You can draw it lots of different ways, and you can put it, generally speaking, wherever you want. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly where it is in your room. All right, first thing is, if you want to use the line tool, I like to draw straight up first, which again is the blue axis. Typical US door is 7 feet tall. So I typed in 7 apostrophe. A typical width on a US door is 3 feet. Hit enter. Notice I went along the green axis. And then lastly, to complete it, see, this is where people get a little bit confused. You can see it was on the red axis, but this is a vertical line, so it needs to be blue. All right, so what we've done is we drew our door flat on our wall. If I use my selection tool, again, which is spacebar, you can see this is the section that we just drew. Push, pull, P on your keyboard. If we were to click that plane and pull out like we did in our drawing in class, you can see that it kind of goes away from the wall. But what we want is we want to push the door into the wall and click it on the back edge. And what that does is it deletes the plane once you go through. All right, so I'll do that again just for clarity. So push pull, but again, instead of going out, we want to click it on the back edge of our wall. And when we do that, it will disappear the door. Okay, let's put a window back here. Windows are not as standard as doors. Let's say that I've got a big picture window on the back wall of my bedroom. In order for a room to be considered to be able to have a bedroom, it must have a window. So I just drew a window on this back side. Push pull, instead of going away from the wall, I'm going to snap it and click it to the back edge. Once I click it, it should disappear, assuming I did it correctly. But we want to have glass for our windows. So this is the way that I typically do it. Once you've disappeared that section of wall for your window, I like to use the line tool, and I like to draw a line across my window. What that does is it completes the polygon that was missing. And anytime a polygon is completed in SketchUp, it automatically fills. All right? I can take out that diagonal line now with the eraser tool, which is E on your keyboard. You can also use the selection tool, which is spacebar, and hit delete. And this right here is what I want to change to glass. So what I will do is I'll use the materials option, which is this checkerboard cube. These are the colors that are already present in the model, this home screen. On the right is the browse, which is any sort of color that you could ever imagine, plus a lot of different materials. I like to use glass and mirrors. Any color that has a line through it means that it's transparent. I'm going to click that, and you can see through the window now on the glass wall there. You could also use the paint bucket tool, which will bring up the color menu as well. But again, make sure you use this little browse menu, which is the magnifying glass on the side. All right. We need some materials as part of the requirements. So let's put in some carpet. Let's put in some textiles, maybe some brick. Right. So I got carpet on my floor. Maybe you've got yellow carpet. You can kind of choose from lots of different ones. You can also use regular color. It doesn't have to be exactly matching what your floor looks like. Let's say that I've got brick walls in my bedroom. Maybe I'm in the basement. That's fine. Again, you can also use color instead if you want to. All right, so we've got texture for at least the interior of our space. Maybe this is a little bit dark. Maybe I'll change this to lighter carpet. All right, you need to build at least one piece of furniture on your own. Easiest one to do is a bed. Next easiest one to do is the dresser, or maybe a desk as well. All right, so I'm going to be lazy and I'll just draw the bed. All right, I'm going to use the rectangle tool. The way that I typically would build simple furniture is I'll just draw the basic shapes on the floor and then pull it up out of the floor. So you can see on the bottom right hand corner of my screen, dimensions, we've got 8 feet by 5 feet ish. So I think a typical bed is usually like 6 feet, comma, we'll say 4 feet, and hit enter. All right, so this is now a 6 by 4 foot rectangle. If I were to select my space, selection tool, and use push pull, I can pull it out of the floor. Let's say 24 inches. You can also type in 24 and hit enter, and that should be enough. Just to clarify that this is not part of my carpet, maybe I'll change the material to a different color. That way you can see that this is my carpet, this is my object, and then maybe I'll put in some pillows. I'll just kind of draw, I don't know, maybe like a 18-inch line there. Green is the endpoint circle. I can draw another line in the midpoint. SketchUp is very snappy. It snaps to a lot of different parts. So maybe I'll go up 6 inches. I'll do this again. Section this off. So maybe these are pillows. And again, I can always make this different color just to show that these are different objects than my bedspread. This is for our assignment good enough, so to speak. Again, you could make a dresser as well. So let's maybe I'll just draw a little dresser here. Typically, again, I'll draw it on the floor first, pull it up out of the floor, and then maybe I'll do some sort of decorative material. You can play around with the materials. You can play around with the stones. You could, if you want to like make it a nice legged object as well, you could always start to draw things flat and then just push them away. So maybe I want to have legs there. I'll snap this to the back wall. I'll push it in. Man, look at that. Dresser already has legs. Good to go. You could always do the same thing on the other side as well. All right. I've built furniture, but you also need to import furniture. I want you to understand how to use the 3D warehouse, which is this right here on the right-hand side. It's the cube within the cube. It says 3D warehouse if you kind of leave the mouse over it. When you click it, you will get a internet connection pulled up. I'm just going to type in, maybe we'll do a desk. All right. Type desk in the search bar. There are thousands upon thousands of objects that will come up. I typically like to use models. Products can be sometimes a little bit heavy on the memory. let's say that this desk right here is good enough. If you click download, it's going to take a minute. It slowly but surely will um, put it directly into your model. But again, just let the computer catch up because sometimes it can be a little bit slow. And then if I zoom out a little, depending on how big your object is, it might take a sec to kind of make things go. So this is a big detailed model, so this might slow my machine a little bit. It's not a big deal. I'm going to click it one time outside of my model. You should automatically have the move tool kind of highlighted, which is M on your keyboard. I'm going to click one of the corners, and I'm going to move my object somewhere along my wall. But let's say that I don't want this object along this back wall, and I want it on this wall. I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to rotate it by using the letter Q on my keyboard. You can also find the rotate tool right here on the left. Again, anytime you click these options, you should have more options underneath. Just so if you can't see it on the menu option, just click a bunch of different ones. You should get submenus. In this case, we've got rotate. All right, I've got my object. I'm going to click one time on the plane that I want to rotate it on, and then as I move out, I'll click, and then I'll rotate away, and I can type in something like 90. So in this case, it's a 90-degree turn. Hit that in, hit enter. M on your keyboard is the move tool, which again, I'm going to click one of my corners, maybe put it up against the back wall, maybe slide it over a little bit, and voila. I've got my room with a desk that I imported. I've got materials. I've got 2 pieces of furniture that I built. I have texture. I've got a door. I've got a window. And I've got a 6-inch thick wall. All right. If you have a closet, you can put it in the closet, but it can be flat. So we'll just do this real quick. So let's say that I've got a closet right here. I'm just going to draw a straight line up. Maybe I've got a, tell you what, I'll do it this way. Use my rectangle tool, and I'll just draw a closet flat. So maybe it's 6 feet by 3 feet. Enter. And this will be my closet. I can push this one all the way up, boop, like that. And then I can always put my closet down there. So maybe I'll select the top plane and I'll hit delete. So all I did was, when you've got the direct selection tool, which again is spacebar, if you select a plane and hit delete, it will delete that plane. I can then take my wall and I can push it to the back edge and make it flat. And then now, maybe I'll just separate my door with 2 little sub doors. Ooh, great. I now have a closet in my wall, in my room, 2 pieces of built furniture. You only need one. And then the imported piece of furniture. Again, I think this is slowing down the machine a little bit, so that might be why it's a little bit chuggy. And the move tool, you can kind of just move things around, place things where you want it. Q is rotate, M is move. Should be good to go. All right, so good luck. Let me know how it goes. Let me know if you need anything, any clarification.